Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. This is Juliette Hahn here with Brent Sopel. How are you?
Wow, that was awful.
I know.
Geez, how tired are you?
I'm so tired. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, they can see my eyes are almost closed. I do not do well on little bit of sleep. I was like the queen. 5 hours, I didn't need any more. And I was always on point.
So you think.
No, fuck off. I 100% know I was on point. It didn't affect anything. It probably made me a little bit spazzier, but whatever. I was really good at it. Now, holy shit. If I don't get at least 7 hours, multiple days a week, I look like this. And I am no energy.
Instead of working all weekend, partying all weekend, that doesn't help either.
Okay, I did not party, but I was up late. I was up. So the group that we were with was actually really funny. Oh, none of you guys. And I was like, sorry. I had a lot of fun in my younger years. I'll just stick with my seltzer and cranberry and pretend I'm having a vodka in there. But nope. But we were up until midnight. After dinner, we would go back and be like, okay, let's break down the day.
Well, and you're in Texas, so that was a different time zone too, right?
Yeah.
Midnight is what? That's 1 a.m. your time.
Thank you. And I kept saying that. Well, at 8:30, I'm like, what time is it? I'm like, oh, it's really 9:30. And everyone was with me. They're like, no, it's 8:30. Look at the clock. And I'm like, oh, I do this at daylight savings time too. I'm like, but it really feels like this. My husband, Dan, goes nuts. He's like, oh my God, it doesn't. I was like, no, I have to condition my brain to okay, yes. So I was up. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I didn't get home until midnight Sunday. So that's 4 days not working out. I was eating cookie dough like it was my job. So it was so good. Yeah. So
I used to travel when I traveled. I never got jet lagged, because whenever I'd get on the plane, no matter where I was going, if it was obviously East Coast or it was going to Russia or Europe, when I got on the plane, I moved my watch to that time zone. So then I was able to figure out what I can do on the plane. If I'm leaving at 9 a.m. Russian time. I could have a quick nap, 2 hours, right? Couldn't sleep in it. But if I'm leaving at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, their time, I had to fight it. Couldn't sleep. Because as soon as so when I would land, would it be the first battle to get through it? Yes. But then as soon as you'd land, you'd be right on their time zone.
That's smart. So I cannot really nap in other places, sitting up, it just doesn't work that way. I know. I'm like, no,
because you don't stop talking. That person next to you. The whole plane knew you were there on the fucking plane.
I did not on the way home have any plane friends. On the way there, yes, I did meet a plane friend, and it was the plane friend that initiated the conversation. I was listening to my music. I promise you. Oh my God, don't bullshit me. I promise you. We were literally, there was no Wi-Fi. I could see. Friends. And what the thing that was actually funny is I was like, he was trying to get on Wi-Fi, and I was like, oh, he's a little tightly wound. I was like, this guy is a little bit he's annoyed that he can't. He tried 30 times. I was like, okay, something's wrong with the Wi-Fi. I'm just going to put music on and not listen to whatever I was listening to. And then when the lady came to give us our drinks, I was getting a hot tea. He was getting some bourbon.
Who gets a hot tea? Are you out of your fucking mind?
I get a hot tea. And I get a hot tea.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
Well, I think
anybody who wants to go get a hot drink on the plane are out of your fucking mind. You're one bounce away from fucking McDonald's yourself in your lap.
Yeah. What? I got my Raya gel just in case. I get a hot tea because then I'm like, okay, because I'm always freezing on the airplane.
You're one bump away.
I like living on the edge.
What's the term? What do you always say? You're one question away from
a different life.
Change your different life. You're one bump away from the different life.
Yeah, it's so funny. Okay, well, no, but I used to get a vodka. That was my thing. I loved getting on the plane to get to drink.
No, I was always drunk before I got on the plane, but that's different.
Wait, but so now I get a hot tea because I'm like, okay, this is
you're one bump away from a different life.
I swear to God, if I get fucking burnt the next time I'm on an airplane, I'm going to curse at you. I've been drinking now hot tea for a couple years on the plane, and I haven't had one bump. And I don't even pull my tray down. I just hold it.
Oh, you are smart like stick.
No, I have a top on it. There's a top. Did you say I'm smart like stick? Listen. Okay. So anyways, he started talking and he's like, I got to get bourbon because I can't get on my Wi-Fi. And then I was like,
what's today's topic?
Oh, this is not today's topic? Okay. Listen,
I need attention. Sir. Where's your hat?
Oh. Okay. I'm going to come through there and poke you in the fucking eyes. If I could. Okay. I don't need attention. You're the one who said I talked too much on the plane. I wanted to tell you that the man next to me is the one that talked.
See, with you wouldn't be so defensive if it wasn't true, right?
Because I do talk, but I know when not to. Anyways, fuck off. Okay. So today's topic. So we had a dinner and I did get to talk a lot about a lot of things. And one of them was with the gentleman from California. We started talking about dyslexia, actually, fun enough. And I don't remember how that was brought up, but then he was saying, actually, we started talking about something else that we're not going to talk about on here because it's whatever. It was a little bit more political stuff. And I was like, oh, fuck, are we? But then I was like, oh, he's not what I thought he was. And then I was like, okay, this is interesting. So now we can have a conversation. I thought he was going to go down
and that could lead into the conversation I had with the principal, last week too.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do that first?
No, you go ahead. You go through Texas.
I would like to let you speak because I don't always talk.
I'd like to say, does a duck dick drag weeds? Yes.
Okay.
So it goes to, obviously the abolishing of the not political. Obviously, that's what Trump signed an executive order to get rid of the education. And everybody thinks up in arms that now everything is going hellbent. No, obviously
it's already hellbent.
Now it's just going to be being put on the state, on each state to make the decision what goes on. Basically, all the education department was a funnel through of funding, and then the state makes a decision where it goes. But so I talked to a principal where my kids went to elementary school. She's been there, 8 years, and her daughter's in one of my hockey classes, and we were talking about how they call them not dyslexia, right? They call it learning difference. She's like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, well, yeah, it's a massive deal. I said, the difference between what is a learning difference? There's a million, obviously there's a tons of different things that fall in their bracket. Dyslexia. And her response is, oh, but I put it in the notes. What the fuck does that have to do with a diagnosis? Oh, a learning difference, but in the notes on the side, I put dyslexia. Oh, really? So it's part of the diagnosis, but then you won't put it in there. In the state of Illinois, passed in 2024. If you're here in Illinois listening, they no longer accept neuropsychs. The school's got to do their evaluation. But this is just kind of what we're talking about of how they find ways around the legal system. So by putting it learning difference, you can maybe pick 20 different ways that you can supposedly support a kid. Now, dyslexia, there's only two different reading programs. What's cheaper? What's easier? What's more accessible? 20 or 2? They go with 20. So, oh yeah, we're doing a good job. And people are talking about 504s and IEPs. Things are going to happen. It doesn't fucking matter. What they're doing now aren't helping.
Right.
It's actually hurting what they're doing. So all these people that want to be in social media saying, oh, the 504s are IEPs, it doesn't fucking matter. Just as this principal where my kids went to school said, oh, we put it in the notes. No, it's a fucking diagnosis. You put it in the 504, the IEP, and you leave it there. You don't put it to the notes. Where does the note go? Does the note travel with it? No. Note goes in the fucking garbage.
So, okay. So I want to talk on this because I have two things to say on that, which one of them is that's where she has a little bit of awareness because the notes, that's like what I had to fight for New York to get it in the notes. So this is like I like this. Okay. Good one. Two things. I could say, you know what? She actually has some awareness and knows that needs to be in an IEP or a 504 for the teacher to be able to understand. So she's like, okay, yes, I know there's something wrong with just saying specified learning disability, right? So she's like, she's like, when we talk about when some people are actually knowledgeable and they do try to help, right? So she's like, okay, which is a good thing.
That's a 1B or 1C.
Right, exactly.
Not a 1A.
Not a 1A. Right, exactly. I love that. So she at least have some
I agree with you on that 100%. Yep.
So like if a parent doesn't know that, right, I had to fight because I know, but a lot of parents don't know it and they just leave the specified learning disability with no notes of like actually what it is. And so great. That's a great thing. However, as you said, is traveling when they redo it, if the parent doesn't realize, oh, wait, this needs to keep going. Like, does she educate the parent afterwards? And it's like, you know what? You need to always fight this. No, because they can't do that because it's a business, right? And they're not going to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And you think of a note, think of a white piece of paper on top of a file. And so how many times if you're in the office building, right, that note fell down, right? Now it's gone. So when you get the diagnosis in elementary school, right, that you're taking that note to middle school, then the high school, is that note ever going to fall off? 100% it's going to. So go ahead. Now,
the thing is, it depends on where she's putting. So like with Montgomery's, it was his specified learning disability, and right underneath, it was like, and I don't remember the wording, but it was in the actual, it wasn't like a sticky note. It was
no. And so I wasn't saying a sticky note. I was using that as a reference point for a thought process because a note is just a note. It's not a part of a diagnosis. So you're right. It wasn't a sticky note. It doesn't have to stay. So that was that was my bad explanation for it. Yes, it will be typed in there or written in there, but I mean, as visual purposes, I was saying to think of a sticky note.
Yep.
Because it's not part of the formal diagnosis. It's not part of it. So that note could be falling off like that piece of paper at any point in time is what I was saying. So I agree.
No, and I'm glad that you clarified because you know that we're going to have people being like, it's not a sticky note and missing the whole concept of what you're saying. So that's why I just wanted you to explain. Well, because exactly. But I was thinking, and that's the you're right. She's a 1B, 1C, but that's the difference from being 1B or 1C to 1A, and that's life changing, right? If that 100%. If that parent doesn't understand, isn't fully aware of what this all means, and the information isn't out there, right? Even if she does, how many parents have we talked to, and get comments and people sending us, we thought this would happen. We thought that this was going to pass along. We thought this was good, right? Oh my God.
They don't know the gruel ins and outs of what this is and how, so maybe 10% of the people have the depth of understanding that we have. How many people just as you did, I trusted the school district that this would continue.
Yeah.
And then now, so,
right. Oh, I'm going to a new school. Where's that? Like, right. And then the new person comes in and they change the words. Just like when we came from Connecticut to New York, they took those words out and it was like, I had the knowledge. So I fought. Right. So like, is this principal, which is great. She's 1B, but is she educating? No. So the parents are still like going and being like, okay, well, seems like I'm getting what I need to get, right? Because it's in there. So they have some sort of trust because it's like, well, no, they're doing some things. That happens all the time because we have talked to many people that are like, no, my school district did this and my kid is okay. And it's like, you know what? You got a good one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But the majority of people don't. And if you move or do anything, like you have to have some knowledge about it. And that's why we're always talking on things,
Right.
talking in different, sometimes the same subject, but different experiences. So it clicks for people because you need to hear it 7 times, right? You need to hear it before all of a sudden it's like, wait a second.
And I had a call with a mom last week. Her daughter, dyslexic, obviously was getting services. It helped get her scores up to whatever they were. But she was still bottom 10% of, I can't remember. She said if it was a class, the district, whatever. And now they want to take the services. So they're still at the bottom 10, but now you want to take them away. So always schools like, oh yeah, good. She went up 5 points or 6 points or whatever that is. She's out here. You're still missing the point that she's still at the bottom 10% or bottom 5% or about 8% of the whole school district, whatever that is. So now you want to take the services away. So again, you got her up 4% or 5% or 10%, whatever that is. She's still in the bottom. So now why are you trying to take it away? So tell me how the 504s or the IPs or the 504s are helping. Great. Great help for a year. Now you want to take it away?
Mm-hmm. And we're not saying like when people are like, oh my gosh, right? I'm like, it's a shit show. I'm not saying I think that it's a great idea or not a great idea. I don't know, but I know something needs to change in the education system. So like, let's pray that this could be it. Yes. Is it going to get really messy? I mean, look at South Carolina, where right the day, like a week before school started, they pulled anyone that got a certain score on their standardized testing or their special education testing. If they got a certain score, they got all of their services taken away out of nowhere. That that would have panicked me. Like, there's so many things, as you said, the services, and you've heard the last number of podcasts gone out. We've talked about that. Like the services level the playing field. But one of the things that we segue into this is the testing, right? The standardized testing. This school is, there's so many things that I, again, because I was a struggler, that I really hate about school. So many things. There's things that I'm like, oh, you know what? I enjoyed. I know you didn't, but like I enjoyed my friends. I enjoyed the sports. I enjoyed things that I did do. But when you think about school, the way they teach you how to take a test and standardized testing. There's nothing in life that you're really learning in school unless you struggle and you're trying to figure out, you're critically thinking, trying to get out. So that is why sometimes, you think of someone that's really, really book smart. I mean, there's a couple of different conversations that we got into that I thought were really fascinating about book smart, people that are critical thinkers, the education system. This is like the conversations I was having at dinner at this conference. And when you really think about it, someone that's book smart is great. Someone that gets their PhD, that's great. That's great for them. I'm saying great, meaning like that's what?
Perfect. Everybody's got
their strengths.
Yep.
But a lot of times, and I was talking to a couple PhDs that didn't mean to go and get their PhD. It wasn't their plan. They were like, it just kind of happenstance. It made sense for my career. I did it. However, they had the critical thinking because they maybe, there was a different path that they went. But then you talk to some PhDs that school they were good at. So they were like, I'm not going to go venture out here and struggle. I'm just going to stay here. This is comfortable.
Stay here where I'm good at.
and they're book smart. I'm not knocking it all. If you're listening to this and you're like, that's so mean. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, it's another skill set, but real life, you need that critical thinking. And schools, I mean, they don't teach you
Well,
any of that.
and the standardized testing, right? So to your point, right? Those people are good at tests, so they have good scores, right?
Yeah.
Are we good at tests?
No,
we can't take tests that way. So
at
now,
all.
so now they're good at taking tests that way. That's their strength. So we're playing to their strengths, right? Are they playing to our strengths? No, right? So those standard testing are completely unfair, biased, but because that's their strength. And of course, if that was my strengths, that's the place where I would stay all day long, right? We look for self-esteem. That's all we talk about on this place. That's positive is self-esteem and what we're good at, right? So I would stay there too. So God bless that they found it. But
100%.
they're not
I love how you said that.
They're not playing to our strengths, right? Now, if we could do standardized testings, that way for them, and the way we need it for us, now you'd get true numbers of what, because you're trying to find out in those standardized testing what information you know.
Right.
Not how you take the tests, right? Information, no. So now if we did standardized testings our way, so if we took them, all the great, taking those standardized tests and let them take tests our way, what would their scores be? The way we need to, right? If you flip-flop those, what would that be?
I mean, I think that they would be fine because they have a book smart. And I actually think that I think people that are good in school and good at books and good at that, they can figure out how to study and take a test. Oh, good. Oh, I like that.
Well,
poked at the screen.
No. I do that. Well, because Penelope, right? She said to you, "I've learned, right? I've learned how I need to study." Correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's not
how she's right. That's not how she studies. So if she's studying her way, right? Mm-hmm. You already went through this with her, and that teacher wasn't, sitting in, was fitting into those confines. Right.
Mm-hmm. And she figured
how would
it
she
out.
do?
Yeah.
Well,
in the beginning, she
not have to.
Yeah. Well, no, in the beginning she was struggling. Right. And so she took it on upon herself to be like, the way you're giving the information, it's not.
But that's right. She got it back to her. But that point I'm making is that she was struggling.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. Okay.
But would they still do pretty good? I agree with you. I still agree. They're book smart. They'd still probably pretty good. But I don't think they'd be as good as the other way, because that plays to their strengths. The other way doesn't. Completely.
Okay. Yeah, so I hear you, but I think, and this is where I think why school is so backwards. I actually think that the way we learn and the way we need to take a test, that people that are good in school could adjust to do it, and then it would equal. Just like when I always yell, like, okay, so there are reading programs, right, that everyone can learn. Like, why aren't they doing that? That's so stupid. Like, why wouldn't they teach? Because they're expensive. We know the costs and stuff. But like, if there's a way that everyone can learn to read, why wouldn't everyone just do that and not do like this curriculum where they know dyslexics can't, like, they're going to have some kids that can't do it.
And to that question is, do we know that?
No, that's just always been a speculation in my head. Like I was always that was one of my arguments. Yeah.
And I don't think there is, right? Because now you're talking about two different sides of the brain. Mm-hmm. So left brain, right brain, you hear these conversations, we have these conversations. Left brain, they're different, right? Right? People are different people. Right brain are different people. So is there a program that brings the two of them? I'm not a teacher. I'm not a PhD. And I don't know of one. Mm-hmm. Right. They're the big buzz is science of reading right now. Big buzz. There's no proof of any of that. Right. How is it? This is the biggest money grab out there. So to that point, what you just said, is there? I don't know of one. There could be. I don't know what that whole
I'd be curious.
Collaboration is, and to doing it so that both people can read. People say there is the dig deeps. There's money, so that's the ultimate. But you're dealing with two different brains.
Yeah,
a left brain and a right brain,
and there's also a third different brain in there.
You're not a guy. How would you know?
No. Okay. There is people that are way stronger on one. People are way stronger on that also I've come across people that are like strong on both. And they're very fascinating. Like, I'm like, wait, you're creative and you're like, like, and you're this?
Now we're getting a whole nother, 100%, just for, time purpose. Like we were, dyslexics, whatever it is, we start reading with our right side of the brain.
Right.
Everyone else left. Right. So how I always describe it is we start reading the right, it goes up and take a bowl of spaghetti. Mm-hmm. That's all our wiring. That's why everything's just all over the place, right? Yep. And people over here, left brain, it doesn't move, right? It stays there, right? You're reading here. Yep. So you don't have to go through the bowl of spaghetti.
The bowl of spaghetti, right? Which is very interesting. And you said something in the beginning, and this is something that has been fascinating me on many different levels. But when you're good at something, that's what you gravitate to, right? I've come now across and like gotten into conversations with a number of different people that are good at something. However, they don't like it. And it boggles my mind. I'm like, how can you be good at something but not like it? And they're like, why don't you understand? I'm like, because anything I'm good at, I'm like, anything I'm not good at.
Well, that's the true definition of a dyslexic right there. We talk about self-esteem, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're good at something. They don't like it because they have other skills and ways of getting their self-esteem. Right.
Oh yeah.
Not just
it is. Yeah. And I will say it's one of them recently was my daughter, who was like such an athlete and is like, what's the purpose? And I'm like, what do you mean? What's the purpose? Like, what are you talking about? How does that have a purpose? You're so good, but she's also really good at other things. And Montgomery and I would always say, she's like anything she does, but then she would get pissed. She's like, no, I have to work like that. Everything doesn't come easy to me. And I'm like, well, to us looking from the outside, it looks like it comes easy to you because we couldn't even tackle that. The fact that she taught herself, adjusted herself in this biology class to the teacher, even though she talked to her and she's like, she's still not making it, and then figured out how she needed all these things that just, I like look at her and I'm like, you fascinate me. She's like, Mom, it's kind of, and I'm like, no, you're like, she now gets it and sees some, especially with the work I'm doing. And I like ask her a question or she'll read something and she'll be like, oh, like she does get it, but there's still not like a sympathy, or not sympathy. I shouldn't say that. There's like, it's a different understanding. So it's a really interesting thing for me to have raised raising 3 different kids.
It's crazy how different they all come from the same spot and how different each kid is.
And it is a fascinating thing to think you're good at something, but you don't like it. Like when talking to that one scientist, remember math, she was like 3 levels above in math, and everyone was like, you're going to be a mathematician. She's like, I hated math. And I was like, but you were good at it? She's like, I was so good at it. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what, there was something happened in that little pot there.
Right. But she's good at other places she's good at. We don't. Again, for the most part, we don't usually, right? But it's also, if you break it down, if you're dyslexic, just think how many times a day you read if you're listening to this. Just think. Try struggling every single time. So we may have other strengths, and we may have 2 or 3 other strengths, but they're wiped away, or two out of 3 are wiped away because how many times we struggle. We don't even see our strengths a lot of times because we struggle so much. So there's usually only that one thing that we're good at that we see, because the other ones get covered up by how many times that we struggle and how many mistakes. And, I had one yesterday, going to make a text message and, again, flip-flop the numbers. I'm texting the wrong person.
Right. What didn't I just say to you? I was like, I know I responded to that email. I know I was walking, because I was walking through the conference and I was responding to the email, and it's not in the email chain. I was like, is it in my drafts? It's not in my drafts. It's like, okay, maybe I sent that to someone else. There might be another Alex. And that is, I think that was part of the conversation I had at dinner as well, was like the interesting facts of when people are like, oh, I know someone with dyslexia, but they're really, really smart. They're really good. They're the smartest person I've ever known, but they're seeing them here. And I said, like, 'cause this one guy was like, one of my really closest friends is dyslexic, and he's like, he's so creative and he's so this and that. I was like, when you go home, ask him how school was. Like, just ask him and see what his reaction is. And he's like, no, I will, because he really only talks about the good sides. And he's like, I know the struggles, because I could see some of the stuff, and and I think he even made an example of like going out to dinner and being like, oh, I'm going to do the tip or whatever. I was like, he's probably a little dyscalculia there too. I was like, and so there's those little things that, as you say, and we talk about, that we do all day long, or that someone doesn't struggle, like at the conference, talking to doctors and them being like, hey, take my email down. Now, I have a great counterpart that's like, I'll take it down, because I'm like, me putting it in my notes, I'm going to misspell it. Like, it doesn't matter.
What's that business card? You can, on your phone, you can touch their phone and transfer it over.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I used to have that. But yeah, so there's a link. LinkedIn does one thing, but there's like a little patch, and I forget the name of it. There's a couple of different companies that do it. You can touch and it like goes, and then you get all their
swap,
stuff.
Swap the information or whatever, so you don't have to, type it out. And that's the thing. Great that he recognizes that he's very creative, right? And he's probably like, oh, I wish I was that creative, right? So there's a part that he admiring him, which is great. But how many of us never get to that point?
Right. But that's where we talk so much about, though, and why we bring these things up time and time again, because it depends on where you are in your life and your world. If you know people with dyslexia, if you don't, where you're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. They're the smartest people I know, right? But you don't go back. They've had a journey. They've had the shit. They've
got walls.
Right, where they've dug themselves out, right? Where it's like, it has not always, you're just catching them at this time. We all go through that, right? We all go through ups and downs. I mean,
life isn't easy. I think we have a Berlin Wall built around us. And I think a lot of dyslexic or non-dyslexics have Berlin walls with doors that you're able to walk through, right? We have to climb over, right? Because we've built them so up with all our struggles. That's a pretty good scenario.
Yeah, that was. I was like, I actually saw myself climbing up the wall.
right. And then non-dyslexic. Oh, I'm just going to walk through that door.
Yeah, no, I totally.
I still have walls, but I can open the door and walk through and get to the other side and show that I'm okay doing that.
Yeah. No, that was actually great. We're going to leave it at that. I mean, it's again, things to think about, things to. As life and education and all of the messy stuff that's happening in the world, but why every day we're talking about this, not only that, but why we do the podcast, because there's a lot of things that you don't think about, and you might have heard us talk in different scenarios, but we always make it different. And it's just some of those things that it's like, okay, now it's going to click. Oh, right. And then you might have to teach your friend.
My stupid analogies, like, the yellow piece of paper, right? Just trying to paint a different perspective and view for other people, because you don't see it our way. Your brain's not wired that way. So maybe I can, the Berlin Wall with the door, can paint a different viewpoint so somebody else can see it in a different way.
Exactly. We're going to leave it at that. Thank you for joining Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. You guys know I say it every single time. You do not know who needs to hear this. You do not know who is struggling. You do not know who is all of a sudden having a grandkid, an aunt, an uncle, someone that is having a kid that's like, wait, I think that they're struggling. I've seen them do X, Y, and Z. It's those things. Knowledge is power. And that's why we do this podcast. So like, rate, review, and share. And don't forget to go to sopelfoundation.org. There's some shop. I know some people have been asking about the green sweatshirt. It is there. Some people have been asking about the hat. There is a shop button on there. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, go to LinkedIn, because we have a LinkedIn under Brent so it's Brent Sopel on LinkedIn and we talk about all the different events that are coming up. That's something that's really important because people are always like, well, when's that happening? We want you to put that in your calendar now. Do you want to really quickly mention the golf event, what that date is?
Yeah, September 15th. Riverside Country Club here. Just outside of Chicago. Will be same place you had last year, September 15th. All locked in. I got to finish up the sponsorship package and the whole sponsorships and the foursomes. So that'll be done here in the next 10 or 14 days.
Perfect. All right. So that's where you want to be on the newsletter because these are the kind of things that we talk about. And then the cup dinner, that's going to be happening in October.
Yeah,
so fun.
Once all that's solidified, then we'll announce that.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you again.